Hey, I'm Isaac with Hearthside Woodworks. Today I'll be refinishing the top of this antique drop leaf table. So structurally, this table is in really good condition. I probably have done 10 or 12 of this style of drop leaf table. And this is the first one to ever come into the shop that is structurally sound. The legs are all really good. The joinery is all in really good shape. It's sturdy, it's solid. There's nothing wrong going on down there. However, the finish on the top is in pretty bad shape. There's lots of scratches, just wear marks. It's in rough shape. There's just life. Life happens with tables. So the main project that I'm doing on this is to strip the table top down completely, all the way down to bare wood, restain it, and then give it 3 or 4 coats of durable finish. So in a lot of cases, these tables had shellac top coat or they had a lacquer top coat. But in this instance, they want to actually use this table kind of on a daily basis. So they want a very durable finish. They don't want to deal with the hassles that softer finishes like shellac and lacquer, you kind of have to deal with those. So my first thing to do is to get this moved into position and get this totally removed, taken all the way down to bare wood. So I'm just going to start off by kind of doing some test scraping. I just take, of course not super good wood carving chisels, just kind of construction grade chisels. It's just for some reason I seem to have better control. Yeah, it's only an inch wide versus the card scrapers can be, a couple of inches wide. And I still like to use card scrapers, but I just find they're kind of a pain to maintain, just for me personally. These are always laying around. They're really inexpensive. You can go anywhere and find them. Card scrapers can be a little more difficult to find. So to start off, I'm just going to maybe sharpen these. That one's better. And kind of get a feel for what I'm looking at here, all the way down to bare wood. So it's pretty effective. It's not very wide, admittedly, but I can take things all the way down. As long as you keep the blade nice and flat, or the chisel nice and flat, you're not going side to side, because you can really gouge in and leave yourself some drag marks in the wood that you then have to sand out. Fortunately, this table is solid mahogany. I don't have to worry about a veneer. So when you're dealing with veneers, of course, when you're sanding, you need to be very careful. And when you're scraping, you also need to make sure you're not gouging through it. So it's just kind of a technique. You kind of learn it. You get some muscle memory. So there you go. That's how easy that can be when you're dealing with older finishes. Now, if this was nothing but polyurethane, it would be much more difficult to scrape, but it would still be effective. You can see how quickly that worked. You try to be careful along where the two pieces join, because this piece is actually just slightly higher than here. So if I went over the top, I risk gouging and scraping, gouging the wood as I come up on this lip. So I kind of just be real careful along the edges and take my time. This is dusty. I mean, that's really fine dust. I should be wearing a mask, and as I continue to do this, I will put one on. So the downside is it's very dusty. The upside is that there's no chemicals to breathe in. I don't have to worry about, running my sanders and burning through if this was veneer, burning through the veneer, especially if there's a bunch of wax on top. Really gums up sanding pads like crazy. You can go through a package of sanding pads and, still have more sanding to do. So I just find that although this is dusty, and you do have to maintain an edge on these, very inexpensive, kind of cheaply made chisels, It really goes very quickly. It's very effective, and it takes it all the way down to bare wood. So now I can just take one sanding disc just to kind of smooth it out, and I'm ready to go. So the scraping is done. There's still a little bit of residue left from the finish. The sanding is going to actually completely take care of that. The biggest thing about scraping, just know you don't have to get it 100% all the way down to bare wood. You just want to get rid of the vast majority of the finish, and then you can start your sanding schedule after that. Sitting here at my desk doing my editing, and lost some more footage. I don't know how, I don't know why. It was there. I don't know where it went. Basically what you missed was me going through my sanding schedule of 150, and then I would pencil mark it, and then I went to 180, and then I'd pencil mark it again, and then I hand sanded to 220. Vacuumed everything really well, wiped everything down with denatured alcohol to get rid of all of the dust, and then I applied 3 coats of a dark stain, and I believe I will go into that in the next scene. I'll get better, and I won't always lose footage. I'll figure this thing out. So what you're seeing now is the result of sanding the table down to 220, and then I applied 2 coats of a custom stain that I mixed. I used, I believe it was called Jatoba. I'll put it on the screen if I'm wrong. So about 50% of that, and then 50% of an espresso color. One was a little too brown, one was a little too black, but then when I put them together, it made more of this kind of shade that I'm looking for. In this particular project, I'm going to be using General Finishes High Performance. Now this is a waterborne product, and I've had really good luck with this top coat. Now the reason I'm choosing to do a water-based versus an oil-based is, quite honestly, it's the dry time and it's my shop conditions. I'm busy right now. Every corner of my shop, whether it was designated for finishing, assembly, or otherwise, it's all the same at the moment. So I've got a lot of dust. I don't have a spray booth at the moment, so I'm opting to brush on a waterborne product so that I'm still getting a good quality top coat that I am confident in. This client needs a product that is stronger than a lacquer, and I need a product that doesn't have the long open time as an oil-based top coat such as a polyurethane. So let's just see what it looks like on this. Thing about brushing on water-based pretty much any water-based product, but water-based top coats is you can't brush it for very long like you can an oil base. You really need to get it on, get it applied, and leave it. Otherwise, because it dries so quickly that it starts to drag and you start getting streaks in your finish. So you have to apply it very liberally and go very quickly, keeping a wet sponge or wet brush, whichever version you're using. You just have to go very, very quickly and not overbrush. If you miss a spot, don't go back to it. You can do that, of course, with oil, but with waterborne products, you can't. If you miss a spot or there's a streak of a dry spot, come back to it later. If you try to go and hit it, you're going to create a problem for yourself. Quickly just to get the product applied. Just get it on very liberally. And then, again, very quickly, come back and smooth it out. And that is just about as much time as these waterborne or water-based, however you want to say it, but it's about as much time as they give you. I'll learn my lesson here and do the edges first here. It's so funny, every piece is different. Sometimes these edges here, the reveals, the shadow lines, sometimes they're deep enough that you can actually do a top first and then come back and drag the tip of the brush along that shadow line like I'm currently doing, and it's fine. It's not a big deal. Other times they're a little bit thinner, like this table is, and it's better to do the edges first. You know, I've been doing this kind of work for a long time, and I swear every single piece that comes in teaches me something a little different. Even if the next project I did was another drop leaf table, just like this, the clients wanted a dark stain, just like this. Even if it was made out of mahogany, just like this is, it would just be a completely different project. So it's just part of the gig. Okay, so it's been a couple of days. I did a total of 3 coats of a base coat, and then this final finish coat I just did last night. I always build my top coats in gloss, and then, you know, like in this case where they wanted a satin finish, the very last coat that I do, that's when I choose to do either the semi-gloss or the satin, if that's what they're looking for. And the reason for that is, let's just say to this table specifically, and I just use the satin in all 4 of the coats, it would be very milky, and you would lose just a huge amount of the grain and all this beautiful figure that you can see through. I always want to maintain that as much as possible. So, but I'll go into that in future videos. A couple more steps to go, but I am on the home stretch with this one, so I'm going to bust it out. And I've got a buddy of mine showing up here in a little bit to help me load this into the van and get this delivered. So the next step is applying a cleaner and liquid wax. It works really well for doing things like this, where I'm not doing any kind of work on the legs at all. Nothing needs to happen. This is just a really good cleaning product that also helps to hide scratches and give the existing finishes a little bit of a luster because of the liquid wax in it. So let's see if I can capture how well this stuff works on all this detail work here. It's pretty dry, looking a little bit rough. It's still intact. For a tabletop, this would be a refinish, but you know, down here, it's still workable. And this stuff is water wet. It's watery liquid, so you know, a little bit really does go a long way. You can see how well that's really cleaning and brightening up the finish. And this isn't a 100% fix-all. You know, this stuff, it's not really meant to be something that you do instead of refinishing. If you've got a piece, especially a tabletop, or something that gets a lot of use, it's not going to give you a whole new top coat at all. It's just basically a tinted liquid wax. It just rejuvenates what's there. It is not meant to keep you from having to do a refinish. Okay, so the final stage on every project that I do before I pack it up and load it into my van for delivery is I give it a coat of a liquid beeswax. And this stuff, it's awesome. I highly recommend it, and you can get it pretty much anywhere. Very simple to use. It's just apply, let it sit, wipe it off. And then I just apply this super liberally. And the reason, well, there's a couple reasons why I do this when I'm done with a project. The first one is that while it's in transport, having something like a very thin coat of wax acts as kind of a sacrificial protectant. So if there's any kind of an abrasion from either the ratchet straps or from, you know, the blankets that I lay down, it's going to take the wax off before it starts to take the finish off. And I found that it's actually saved my butt on a few instances. And the other reason, it looks really, really nice. So this is a step I would highly recommend pretty much anybody do as your final step on a piece that you're refinishing. that's going to do it for this drop leaf table project. I really appreciate you tuning in to watch. I'd like to thank my clients for giving me the opportunity to work on this table. I am really happy the way that it turned out. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. That does me a lot of good as far as the YouTube robots. They really like when people subscribe. It helps me out. So thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you on the next one.